Pascal. You are now rocking with that dude Pascal. We be going wild, Haitian in the building, so original. Got the haters catching feelings. Get your hands up to the ceiling and keep them held high. Cause St. Louis isn't ready. Forget about it, goodbye. Hold on, we just saying hi. Five somebody rise up weekdays. Catch us live, somebody. Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pascal Show. Hope you guys are all doing well out there. Hope this show finds you in good spirits. Man, oh man. You know what is really wild about everything here is it just never stops, y'all. The stuff that's been going on out here, the stories that keep coming out, they just never stop. And we have a huge bombshell that happened yesterday. You see what we're talking about here, but I wanted to talk to you guys about it and bring somebody on to really go into depth with this as far as the legals and all that. So we got our good friend Christopher Melcher coming onto the show in just a second. But I wanted to share this with you guys because I still can't believe it. I mean, greed, it's the opposite of what Richard Greco has said. All right, in Wall Street, it's not all good. Greed is not good. Greed is bad. And if these allegations are absolutely true, this is heartbreaking. And I feel like the entire world has been bamboozled by a movie that's just a fabrication. It's not even a true story, y'all. And the things that are the tropes and the stereotype, all this stuff that's been thrown into the movie, etc. It's just absolutely mind-blowing to me. We got to talk about this lawsuit. We got to talk about everything. So before we get into everything, please do me a favor. Please do me that solid. Hit that like button down below. Crush it. Make it scream out your name and all that. That would really, really mean a lot. Send it past 200 likes as you guys start to file in to this show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to every single last one of y'all who are watching this show right here. Also, please do not forget, if you're watching on YouTube, crush that subscribe button. And if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you hit that follow button on my Facebook page. Of course, it'd be great to have you a part of the Pascal Show family. Okay? Now, we got to get into this. This really grinds my gears, y'all. This one really grinds my gears. And you know I love everyone. But this particular situation is absolutely jaw-dropping. You got a situation here where you have a football player, or a retired football player, is now claiming that the movie that was based off of his life is not true at all. That they fabricated this entire thing to make it look like something else. This is an Oscar-winning movie, by the way. It's made millions of dollars. It has been seen all over the globe. Sandra Bullock, if I'm correct, won an Oscar for it as well, if my memory serves me correctly. And this family apparently sold the rights to this story, to his own story, behind his back. And allegedly he has not seen one red cent from the money that this movie has made. Then on top of it, he believed when he was young that the papers that he was signing were adoption papers, only to find out that these documents that he was signing was a conservatorship. So basically, the family that was allegedly adopting him was just taking his money, riding on the back of his hard work, off of his talents, and selling, of course, the rights to the story so that they can make some money. They also have come out with a statement, which we are going to look at here in just a minute. But before we jump into all of that, I do want to bring in our good friend. I mean, you know, this is the man, the myth, the legend. Please welcome back again, Christopher Melcher, attorney Christopher Melcher, back to the show. Hello, my brother. How you doing?
Really, really happy to be here. Really sad story, though. After everything that we saw that happened to Brittany for all those years, being put into an abusive conservatorship and all the things that she had to do to get out of it, to see another story, kind of similar situation, a lot of trust and then failures along the way that allowed Michael now, according to his allegations, to have surrendered his rights to make contracts, deal with his finances, and even to make financial decisions to these two adults that said that they were adopting him that never did.
I can't believe that this is even a true story. And now you have, let me just throw up this photo really quick. You have the family, and of course on the left is Michael Oher, and of course the Tui the mother. Okay, I don't remember her name right now. And of course on the right is Sandra Bullock and the other actor performing the actual movie, the biopic. Okay, now these people allegedly were making some monies, y'all. Allegedly were making some money off this young man at that time, and now this is some crazy stuff. Now that he's seeking termination of a bunch of things, and he's suing. He wants to see his monies. So let's take a look at this, guys. Whoops. Let's take a look at this real quick. Now, let me blow this up real quick. So, Michael Oher, 37, is seeking termination of the conservatorship that began when he was 18 years old. 18. Plus money that he says he should have earned from the movie, as well as an injunction preventing Lee Ann Tui and Sean Tui from using his name and likeness. The petition filed in Shelby County in Tennessee claims that when he thought he was being adopted, the Tuis urged him to sign a conservatorship in which he relinquished his ability to enter into contracts. The lawsuit also claims that Michael, who started living with the Tuis at age 16, unknowingly signed away the rights to his life to 20th Century Fox in 2007. Now, what's wild to me is this. Okay, I think one thing that we need to understand, because I feel like there's a lot of people out here that may not know what a conservatorship is. And I think that would be really helpful if we can kind of understand exactly what is a conservatorship, just for us layman's out here.
Sure. So kind of one way of looking at it, say you have, a child, and as the parent of that child, you get to make decisions on behalf of that child as to what happens to their money, whether they can enter into a contract, marry. There's all kinds of stuff, medical choices. Naturally, the parent for a minor child has those rights. When the child becomes an adult, then that adult child has all of that power, all those rights to make decisions, good or bad. We respect that as a society, our freedom of choice and to have those rights. But there may be circumstances where somebody can't safely take care of themselves. Say that they have Alzheimer's and, they're an adult, but they're can't safely care for themselves. Or there's some other condition that they have that makes them highly susceptible to fraud or undue influence, and they're sending money away from, scammers and stuff like that. And they just can't resist this because they don't know what they're doing. So obviously at that point, somebody's got to step in and take care of this person. And it's usually a family member. And that's what a conservatorship would be for. So this is kind of a long-term, typically arrangement. A lot of people never get out of it because if they have some kind of thing like Alzheimer's, they're probably not going to get better, unfortunately. So that's what it's designed for. Makes a lot of sense when it's needed. In this situation, though, it was never needed and completely insane that the court even approved it. So, like you mentioned, the Tulis had taken Michael into their home, and when he turned 18 in 2004, they told him, well, hey, he's going to start this college, Ole Miss, and is going to play football there, and they had influence at that school, and the only way that they could get him into that school if he was part of the family, so they wanted to adopt him, and they loved him so much that they wanted to adopt him. They had this family attorney who they called Aunt Debbie, draw up the papers, present it to Michael, again, as an 18-year-old who had, other problems going on, and he finally landed in this home. People apparently loved him and taken care of him. He trusted them. Here, sign here, Michael. We're going to adopt you. He doesn't know any better. He doesn't have an attorney of his own. Aunt Debbie is supposed to be looking out for him. And so he says, sure, he signs it. He thinks he's getting adopted. He never gets adopted. The papers are putting himself, by supposed agreement, into a conservatorship. And in the application for conservatorship, the TUI said that Michael should be precluded from making any contract or making any medical decisions. And all of those rights to make a contract or even make a medical decision would now be in the hands of the TUIs. That's what he signed. He didn't realize that. And then they went ahead and exercised those rights on his behalf.
Wow.
Now, and we got a lot to unpack here, but right there, if you stop right there, this can't be done by agreement. It has to be approved. The agreement has to be approved by a judge. The judge is the person who protects us in this situation if we were ever found ourselves, unfortunately, like this, where we needed a conservator. So what's supposed to happen is there's just to bring us, if we're in this situation, to a judge, have the judge ask us questions, lay eyes on us. What are you here for? What's going on? What day is it? Who's the president? Kind of like, do you know what's happening?
Right.
Why do you think you need a conservatorship? Do you need one at all? And whatever. And it should be pretty obvious that this person, based on the answers to those questions, needs a conservator. And they're like, okay, I've validated enough for myself. They should also have medical evidence, medical reports that this person needs it. So that's the stopgap. Also, they're supposed to have independent counsel. So not Aunt Debbie, who was representing the TUIs, and Michael supposedly at the same time, who obviously have divergent interests, supposed to have independent counsel. And we saw in Brittany's case, none of that was done. She wasn't brought before the court. She wasn't even given notice of it. And she wasn't given independent counsel. And when her own independent counsel came into court, the court threw the guy out. So here there's kind of a similar situation here. He's tricked into signing it. We have incompetent judges who aren't following the law and protecting people, and then saying, sure, go ahead and do it. That's 2004. Now we're talking the year 2023. And so when this allegation was filed yesterday in court, the TUIs come out, kind of swinging. Mr. TUI saying this is insulting. It's false. I can't believe he's doing this to us. He's kind of distanced himself from the family. And he says a couple things that's very revealing. One he says is, if Michael wants to end this, I'm happy to end this. Well, of course Michael wants to end this. He's suing you, Mr. TUI, to end it.
No kidding. You'd think that there would be opportunities for Michael to, I feel like it's been decades now. Like it's been plenty of time for him to sit there and go, hey, can we get rid of this conservatorship thing? So I feel like for him to sit there and go, oh yeah, I would relinquish all this stuff if he would just ask me. You're telling me he hasn't come up to you and said, hey, adopted or fake adopted dad, can you relinquish that conservatorship by now? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me.
That makes no sense. The other thing that makes no sense is his explanation. Mr. TUI says, I could not get him into Ole Miss without being a member of the family because he was 18. I couldn't adopt him, so I had to put him under conservatorship. Well, that's also not true. State law, from what we can tell so far, would have allowed for an adult adoption. So the premise is false. Secondly, if the only reason for the conservatorship was to get him into that school in 2004, why does it exist today? Mr. TUI acknowledges that he's still the conservator. Why does he need to be a conservator 19 years later if the only reason was to get him into college?
No kidding.
The other thing that Mr. TUI says, first he tells the reporters, I didn't make any money off this film. He got nothing. Then they question him a little bit. And it's like, oh yeah, well, actually it did get something. I got the writer's shares, $14,000, and we spread that around. I think we each got 14, so the story's already falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
And what Mr. TUI was saying is that, Michael drifted apart from the family, kind of trying to blame him. He's on his own. He's maybe being influenced by other people, whatever it's going on. Well, that tells me that the TUIs would have known that this was coming. And if they knew that this was coming, why did they come out with such a inconsistent and weak response? I mean, they could have immediately said, number one, we resign. We didn't, we don't want to have any part of this. Obviously, Michael doesn't want it. We resign. Fine. And number two, we have accounted for every cent that we have received from him. and we have receipts to show that all that money went directly to him. How long would that take to say, rather than giving all this inconsistent information? So to me, the wheels are coming off the car pretty quick.
No kidding. This is really, I'm telling you guys, this is absolutely heartbreaking. Let me just be completely real. Absolutely heartbreaking. Let's not forget, there was a book that was written about this. Then on top of it, if I'm correct, they also wrote a book for themselves as well. So there's two separate books that were making money off of the back of this young man, of this talented athlete. And then to just rub salt, lemon juice, and freaking Tabasco sauce into the doggone wound, they made him look like they made him look dumb, slow, etc. When he's not. He's a well-spoken, very intelligent black man. Why would they do that? They added that drama so that they can have what, I don't know, the white savior type situation in the movie. I don't know. But this part is very important. All right. So for The Blind Side, the hit film that starred Sandra Bullock, and Sandra Bullock's not in trouble. All right. She was just acting in a movie. But I do wonder if she actually got to meet Michael at all during this whole thing or not. But that's neither here nor there. That doesn't make her a bad person. She's an actress. She comes in, she does the job. She got an Oscar for it. So moving on. She starred Sandra Bullock as the mother, and of course Tim McGraw as the father, Quentin Aaron as Michael. Now the Tuohys negotiated a contract of $225,000 plus 2.5% of future quote unquote defined net proceeds for themselves and their biological children, the lawsuit said. So where does any of that say money for Michael, who this story is based on, that this story is surrounding? Let's be real, okay? Then others say, Oher says the lawsuit that he received, in the lawsuit that he received nothing, while the movie generated more than $300 million in revenue worldwide, y'all. $300 million, and he's saying he hasn't seen one red cent of this. This is absolutely insane. Now, one thing I do want to ask you, Chris, because I think this is kind of an important question. Conservatorship, because Michael's alleging that the parents were saying, yeah, we can adopt you, just sign these papers. He's thinking at that time when he was 18 years old, by the way, he was a D1 athlete at that time, so he was already a beast. This is not in the movie. He is not that. They basically make it seem like they taught him how to play football and all this stuff. None of that is true. He was already one hell of a gifted, intelligent individual, by the way, that was playing basketball, football, and he was good at those sports. He was already a talented athlete. So there was already promise of him exceeding beyond just high school. Now, when they said when he was 18 years old, yeah, just if you want to be adopted, just sign this conservatorship. Now, would conservatorship constitute an adoption as well or no?
No, I mean, it's completely different. In an adoption, you're creating a parent-child relationship by court order. And so, that if the child is under 18, there's going to be rights of, custody or control, guardianship kind of stuff that's going to go along with it. Mm-hmm. For an adult, what it's really going to come into is the right to inherit, the right to maybe make decisions on behalf of that parent if that parent becomes incapacitated, those kind of things. So you're establishing a parent-child relationship by an adult adoption. So sometimes people will do that. But had they been named or appointed as the adoptive parents, they would have no rights over him because he was an 18-year-old. It would just be like any of us who are over 18 who have parents, and they can give us advice and suggestions, but ultimately they don't make decisions for us anymore. So that wouldn't have done it for them. That wouldn't, and that's an implication, I think, of the lawsuit is that the adult adoption mechanism was available to them, and it would have allowed Michael to attend that college, but it would have given them no right to make any decision on his behalf. Only the appointment of them as conservators could have done that.
Interesting. Now, if it was a situation of them saying, like, we wanted to adopt you, but you were 18, there is a way of adopting an adult, correct?
Yeah.
So this wouldn't have been the right paperwork to, quote unquote, adopt this young man.
No. Depriving him of his civil rights was in no way necessary to establish a parent-child relationship by agreement.
They turned him into a cash cow, guys. They turned him into a cash cow. Let me show you guys something else here. Now, this is important because, okay, the parents did speak out. The father did speak out. Or let me say that again. He's not the father. He's not even the adoptive father. He's just a dude that allegedly conned Michael Oher into signing a conservatorship. So this dude, Mr. Sean Toohey, said he made a statement. He said that he was devastated to hear about this lawsuit and that it was upsetting to think that we would make any money off of any of our children. Now, Toohey said that he would be willing to end the conservatorship, as of course Chris has just mentioned earlier on, and that everybody in his family, including Michael, got an equal share from the movie at around $14,000. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the son, his own flesh and blood, Sean Jr., SJ, was in an interview on Barstool Sports on Monday, literally yesterday, y'all. And he says that he made 60, 70 grand over the course of the last 4 or 5 years from that actual movie, y'all. So who's telling the truth? You got the son of the family that made Michael sign this conservatorship coming out and saying, no, I made about 60, 70 grand off of that movie alone. And he didn't even lift a finger. He just happens to be on the contract. So he gets money. They said they split it 5 ways, but is that entirely true? Chris, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, like you say, the story just doesn't hold up. I mean, he said, it was reported, and Mr. Toohey told the reporter that, I made no money. Well, then later on, he acknowledges that he made money. And then then says it's $14,000. And then, like you say, that there's this inconsistency here. So this is where the problem happens. And we saw this in Brittany, it's like, oh, I'm not, making any money. And it's like, well, okay, what about administrative fees for being a conservator? So when every year there should be an accounting presented to the court, and they're going to say, this is the amount of money that we brought in, this is how we spent it, and they're entitled to a reasonable fee for their services. They can also hire out managers and attorneys and accountants to help them with that. And, are there cross relationships here where maybe that money is being spent in ways that is kind of not disclosed entirely to the court? This is what needs to be investigated here in these accountings. So it is really disturbing to see this, because you have a fully functioning adult. He's able to work. He doesn't need a conservator. Same thing with Brittany. That should have been a very big clue to the court that she's able to go on a tour as a performer. Why would she need a conservator? So a lot of failures all the way around. And for this to go on and them to collect, the Tooheys to collect the money, and Aunt Debbie to collect this money, they have a lot of explaining to do. And again, hopefully there's going to be accountability. It sounds like they have quite a bit of wealth. So if he's able to establish that this happened, it does appear that there is a pocket to reach into to make him whole.
Man. Obviously I'm hoping to see something very, very soon, like them coughing up some of this money. Now, when it comes to conservatorship, what are the steps that Michael would have to go through to get this conservatorship lifted?
So he starts with that petition he filed. It's like, hey, I want this thing terminated, and I want all the money here that was made and collected on my behalf during this time to be held in trust, basically in a locked account. He's requested an injunction to prohibit them from disposing of any of that money and to hold it in place, and then to hold them accountable. And so he would be looking at, filing a civil suit against them, potentially in addition to this, for all the damages for basically defrauding him. And again, it's all allegations. It's not proven yet. But if he's going to pursue this, he would be making a fraud claim against the Tuohys and against Aunt Debbie, the attorney, breach of fiduciary duty, conflicts of interest, against all of them. And so it sounds like, again, they have a lot of money as opposed to a lot of these cases where they run off with the dough and there's nothing left, and it's really bad. There may also be a bond. There should have been a bond issued for them to serve as conservators. So we just depend on how big that bond is. That's another source of basically insurance to go after if the fiduciary breaches their duty to the conservatee. And then also looking at some of these contracts, it's alleged that or at least the inference from his petition is that the existence of the conservatorship was hidden from 20th Century Fox when they made the film deal. And so when the film deal was made, it said, hey, send all notices under the contract and all payments and everything to Aunt Debbie, because Aunt Debbie is the attorney. And they didn't apparently disclose that this guy's under conservatorship, because if they would have disclosed that, I got to think that counsel at 20th Century Fox would say, like, why is this guy under conservatorship? Right. And do we have the proper authority now to enter into these contracts? And do we need, some whatever additional help or approval from the court or whatever? Right. So that's of high interest to me. Right now, that contract is private, so it hasn't been disclosed, but he's talked about it. And so if they're hiding the existence of the conservatorship from, the studio and making this contract on his behalf, then that would show what we call in law consciousness of guilt, that you don't hide the existence of something that's on the up and up. You always, will disclose that. So this is, again, another kind of piece of the puzzle here that he's putting together to show that he was tricked. A lot of people are saying, like, well, how could this go on so long? He signed this in 2004. Sure, he's an 18-year-old. Now he's much older, and, how do you let it go on so long? Well, a lot of times these are born out of trust. And we hear his story. He's 18 years old. They brought him into his home. They tell him a story that makes kind of sense, and it's very loving. It's a great story, a great movie. We're going to adopt you, and you just need to sign this. And so, of course, he trusted them, and he would continue to trust them until he had reason not to. And so he said in February of 2023 is when he kind of woke up to all this and realized, this was wrong. He doesn't explain exactly what that causal factor is, what caused it to happen. So hopefully we'll hear more about that story, but I don't fault him for trusting them. And again, this is how people get taken advantage of. This is how people get defrauded. It all starts with putting trust into the hands of somebody who's untrustworthy.
Man, it's like I said, this is a heartbreaking part of this story. And I mean, obviously, as you can see, even the Blind Side movie is a lot darker than I think we ever even imagined. I mean, I've only seen snippets of the movie, but clearly it's an uplifting, positive movie showing that this family brings in this kid, and they're so generous and so kind and loving, seeing beyond color. Hence the reason Blind Side, right? They're playing with the word, playing with that phrase a little bit. But no matter what, now we're finding out that this could be all one big fabricated lie. I mean, obviously these are all alleged, of course, innocent until proven guilty type of situation. But it is very, very sad. And I do want to show a little bit of the documents. Thank you so much, Chris, for sending this to me. Because there's a little bit in here that I think is important to hear. So let me try to blow this up a little bit so you guys can see a little bit more. And Mimi, thank you so much for the 150 Swiss francs. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so, so very much. Okay. And I appreciate everybody. Please be sure to hit that like button down below. Hit it. Hit that reaction button. If you're watching on Facebook, I appreciate you, Facebook fam. And of course, if you're watching on either platform, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and hit that follow button on Facebook. Okay, that'd be greatly appreciated. But let's get into this piece. This is very interesting in my personal opinion, because this also shows to me that this kid, or during this time, Michael, during this time, as when he was a teenager, he had to go through a lot of different, just a lot to get through, just to even go to a proper school, just so he can play ball and all that. And I think the Tuohys saw this and took advantage of the situation as well. You know, his naivete as a kid, and obviously his physical prowess, his athletic ability. So in July of 2004, after Michael had become an adult, but still enrolled as a student at Briarcrest, and just before his senior year, the Tuohys invited Michael to come and live with him. So this is when he was 18, and it's in his senior year. And also a little bit before this, he was basically living, crash sofa surfing, okay, couch surfing at people's houses so that he can get closer to school and be at school on time. All right. So at no time prior to this invitation, during Michael's minority, did the Tuohys take legal action to assume custody of Michael from DHS through appropriate channels, nor did they seek to become Michael's guardian while he was a minor. Despite this inaction, the Tuohys did tell Michael they loved him and that they intended to legally adopt him. Michael believed them, was delighted to be part of a real and stable family, and trusted Mr. and Mrs. Tuohy completely. The Tuohys encouraged Michael to refer to them as mom and dad, not mom, pa, mom and dad. And Michael happily complied. This piece right here, clearly there's planting the seeds of intrigue, the coercion, the con in a way. I mean, at least in his perspective. Again, if this is all 110% true. Almost immediately after Michael moved in, the Tuohys presented him with what he understood to be legal papers that were necessary in the adoption process. Michael trusted the Tuohys and signed where they told him to sign. What he signed, however, and unknown to Michael until February of 2023. So this entire time, wow, this is insane. They were not adoption papers or the equivalent of adoption papers. Instead, it was a petition for appointment of conservators, which was filed in this cause on August 9th, 2004, almost 20 years ago, guys, by Aunt Debbie, the infamous Aunt Debbie. So Aunt Debbie was so close to the Tuohy family that Michael was encouraged to refer to her as Aunt Debbie. This petition, filed on behalf of the Tuohys, Michael and his mother, Denise Oher, by Aunt Betty as the attorney of record for all four petitioners, included a request that the conservators have total control over Michael Oher's ability to negotiate for or enter any contract, despite the fact he was over 18 years of age and had no diagnosed physical or psychological disabilities. Now, this, of course, is the part of the petition that they signed. But what is weird and what blows my mind, Chris, is that not only did he sign this paperwork, his own mother signed this paperwork as well, not even knowing, unbeknownst to her, that she was signing away her own son. She was giving the sign of approval for all of his financial and his own rights to be taken over by the Tuohy family. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, and the petition alleges that Aunt Debbie, this attorney, also acted as the attorney for Michael's mom. So here she has so many divergent interests and clients, and so would have been going to Michael's mom saying, "Hey, I'm an attorney," and getting her to sign off on these papers is really disgusting. And the other thing that's kind of interesting here is that they chose not to adopt either when he was a child or when he turned 18. And they went instead with this conservatorship route. And that's significant because had they adopted him when he was below 18, they'd have an obligation of support. And had they adopted him when he was an adult, he'd have a right to inherit from him. And, they could always disinherit, but he would carry rights as their child then. But under the conservatorship, they have control over him, and he has no rights to inherit and no right to support from them. So they set up a one-way street by doing it as a conservatorship.
Lord. Oh my Lord. Oh my. This is this is burning my cookies, y'all. This is burning my cookies. This is unbelievable. And the fact that they're riding on the coattails of this young man this entire time. There's another piece I wanted to point out here too. This is insane. At no point did Tuohy's inform Michael that they would have ultimate control on all of his contracts. As a result, Michael did not understand that if the conservatorship was granted, he was signing away his right to contract for himself. Michael was falsely advised by the Tuohys that because he was over the age of 18, that the legal action to adopt Michael would have to be called a conservatorship, but it was, for all intents and purposes, an adoption. They conned this young man. He did not know at all. And the fact that they had control over his contracts, even his NFL contracts, y'all, everything that he's done, every contract that he's ever signed, all the money that he's ever made, they have control over it still to this day. Am I correct on that? Chris?
That's the allegation. And, again, it's we got to see the receipts here, but the Tuohy's in a very difficult position because they put this conservatorship over them. They took away, and the conservatorship takes away Michael's legal capacity to contract. So while he's under this conservatorship, he has no legal capacity to sign a contract. That capacity belongs to the Tuohys. So to the extent that Michael signed any contracts, those contracts are invalid because he, doesn't have the capacity to enter into a contract. So the conservators would have to come in and what's called ratify the contract afterwards and go back to that contracting party and saying, hey, 20th century NFL, whatever it is, the guy that signed this contract didn't have capacity because he's under conservatorship, but we as the conservators ratify and approve this and we sign it on his behalf. I don't know if any of that happened. So that's another area where he might be able to go and cancel some contracts because the conservatorship that they put him under doesn't allow him to make a contract, and they can't have it both ways. This is the thing under Brittany. Oh, it's a voluntary conservatorship, so she can do all these things. No, she can't.
Right.
They can't put her under conservatorship and then say that she has rights. She has no rights. Those were all taken from her.
This is
so again, this is going to unravel. It looks really ugly. The only silver lining is that the Tuohys are reported to have like a net worth of over $200 million. So, and that they, I assume, made in ways that have nothing to do with Michael, who knows, but they seem to be wealthy in their own right.
From my understanding, I think they own some fast food joints or a franchise of some sort of grocery store. I don't know exactly, but they're doing just fine. They're doing just fine.
Yeah, so they have money of their own right, and so if Michael's allegations are proven to be true in court and a judge or a jury awards damages, money judgment against the Tuohys, at least there's a way to collect. And so again, that's the silver lining. So if any of this is true and it damaged him, there's a way to collect. Whereas a lot of cases we hear about where this person had money and they were put under conservatorship and it was all taken. They were completely defrauded and it was all spent, and there's nothing there to collect from. That is so horrible. And those cases definitely exist. But here, hey, I hope the Tuohys are right for their sake that they did nothing wrong. Because if they did something wrong and Aunt Debbie did something wrong, they are going to have severe exposure for this. So again, we don't litigate this stuff here on the show, but there's a court proceeding now filed, and we're commenting on that, and that's going to run its course. and we'll see how it turns out.
This is insane. I got a super chat here, and this is a very good question. And I also have a question after you answer this one too. But S Dubs, thank you so much for the $5 super sticker. Appreciate all the super chats. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for all the support. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit that join button down below if you want to support the channel. You know, shameless plug. But she asked here, does this mean they signed for his NFL contracts? Also, would it take so long for him to find out? Or why did it take so long for him to find out? That's actually a really good question. So let's start with the first question. Did they have to oversee his signing of this NFL contract?
They were required to. I mean, that's what the power they asked for. They asked for power specifically removing Michael's ability to enter into a contract and to give the power to make contracts on his behalf to the Tuohys. So that only the Tuohys could have entered into that contract. Now, if Michael signed an NFL contract and the Tuohys didn't sign off on it, that contract's not valid. Because to have a valid contract, both sides of the contract have to have capacity to enter into a contract, and he legally did not have capacity. A court removed that from him on the application for conservatorship. So the NFL contract would be subject to cancellation if these rights are restored to him and he signed it without the conservators, what we call ratifying it. So that's of high interest there. It's a great question. The second thing is, why did it take so long? Well, the thing is with a lot of players is that they're players. I mean, they spend every waking hour learning their craft and their profession, and they maybe know nothing about money, or they don't want to spend time doing it with money. And so they hire a manager or somebody like that. They have a trusted individual in their life that takes care of all this stuff. And I've represented a lot of wealthy people who have no idea. They don't even know what they make. They don't know what they own. Everything is taken care of for them, and hopefully in a way that's, not abusive, and it's all there and accounted for. But there's plenty of people, plenty of entertainers that have that type of situation where they just really don't know what they make and what they own. They just know that all their bills are paid for, and they trust that the manager is taking care of it for him. So I could see something like that happening. I mean, and this isn't manager. This isn't, a sports agent. This is who he believed were his parents. And so, of course, we naturally would trust them. They had adopted him according to their own word, which turned out to be false. But that's what he understood, is these are his parents and they're managing it. And also just looking at it, it's like, if they're so successful to have all these businesses, to now have, hundreds of millions of dollars potentially, you would think, like, there's no one better than them to make these decisions.
The con in this situation, they did the long con, basically. They really did take advantage of this young man. And I do want to point out too, this Michael was, let me just first say this, because I've only seen a few scenes from the movie. I've never read the book that this movie is based off of, but from what they depict in the movie, they make him seem slow. They make him seem like he has some sort of developmental disabilities, that maybe his cognitive skills are not as quick as the normal average Joe. But if you go and check out some of his interviews, he's a very smart, intelligent individual. They painted this movie out to make it seem like they took this kid that had seemingly no potential at all, and through the help of this family, they made him the superstar that he is to this day. When actually, in actuality, that's not true at all. This young man was a very talented, intelligent individual, very gifted on the field and on the court, and they took advantage of this. Now, one of the other questions I gotta ask, because there's a lot of manipulation, coercion, there's some obviously a lot of conning in this situation, hiding of funds and whatnot. Could the Tuohys face criminal charges in this situation?
So, I mean, there's always the possibility if, and where that would come into is, maybe filing a false declaration in court. So if they provided an accounting which hopefully there was annual accountings of here's all the money that we took in and here's how we paid it. So if there were, knowingly false statements on those accountings, that could be, subject to criminal liability. Also, the false pretenses under which they allegedly got him to sign these papers could also subject them to criminal liability. But there's deadlines. There's, called statute of limitations. So there's a period of time in which prosecutors have generally to file criminal charges. And I would think that that's too late for criminal charges back in 2004. But there could be civil liability. So, always interesting to look at that kind of stuff. But, we're just not seeing people prosecuted for these kind of things. It's mostly a civil matter. And I think, though, that the accountability that I would like to see is more on the court side, because there's always going to be grifters. There's always going to be people who maybe started a conservatorship under good, intentions, but then saw that money and just couldn't resist it and took it. And the court is the line of defense. That is the one that the judge is the one that protects us if we ever fell into a situation like that. That's where I put the failure. That's where the accountability has to happen, because otherwise these kind of things are just going to continue to happen.
Yeah, this is not good, guys, and I'm sure there's other situations like this, maybe not in the same dynamics as this, but there are plenty of other conservatorships that actually exist out here where people are held against a prisoner in their own home because of these contracts that they sign. And it's just crazy to me to think that the mother and him were conned in this way, were manipulated in this way, thinking that they were signing something else, the adoption of this young kid so that he can get a better education and so that he can keep playing ball. This family knew that this kid was an All-American, talented athlete that had a huge future coming his way. They took advantage of that and manipulated this young man and his mother. I would hope that if this is, let's not forget, if this is entirely true, because these are just alleged, these are just allegations. If this is entirely true, even though, as you said, Chris, wheels are kind of falling off of this truck real fast, okay? With everything, how they've been responding and whatnot. Because there's been plenty of opportunities, almost 20 years of them relinquishing the conservatorship. As soon as he signed a contract to for football, they could have relinquished the conservatorship. There were so many other things, or when he was about to sign the contract for NFL, like, okay, he's good. We can move on now. Whatever it might be. They had opportunities to do so, and they did not. It is absolutely devastating here that his name is on a movie that's not even true. And that's why, like, some people are going, why are you talking about the movie? It was made, it's all drama. It's made for entertainment. Well, you got a kid, or you got a man's name attached to this movie that isn't even his real life. They're depicting this person as a certain way that's not how he is in real life. If you had your own movie, if someone made a movie about you, one was made against your will or made without you even knowing, it makes a whole buttload of money. You don't see not one red cent of that. And then on top of it, when they depict you in the movie, it's completely false. That would frustrate the hell out of me. Wouldn't it, you, Chris? Wouldn't it frustrate you?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like I say. I mean, it and who knows all these movie things? Like they make money, but then nobody gets paid. So, is that just a phenomenon of Hollywood accounting? But to see his life story rights being signed away, for other people to get paid equally. I mean, the movie was about him really, and the Tuohys. Why are these other people getting paid? But I do got to run, Pascal, and everybody. Yeah. But happy to really be on this story, and again, it's just going to developing, and I'm going to continue following it, even as the headlines die down, because I'm super interested in it. And as anything comes up that's worthy, we'll be back here covering it.
Absolutely. Again, Chris, thank you so much for being on here. Everybody, please go and follow him over on his Twitter. Let me grab that really quick.
Yeah, CA_divorce. And I did a thread on it yesterday, and I'm kind of adding to that thread. So there's, kind of like
Right
just
here.
high level summary of stuff. Yeah.
Yes, and that's the family right there. So again, Chris, thank you so much for being on. Again, guys, go follow him, CA_divorce on X. Okay. But again, Chris, thank you so much. It's always a blessing having you on, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Peace. So guys, listen, this story is absolutely insane to me. It's very heartbreaking. Again, this is somebody who has been taken advantage of. I know some other people might think different, but this is a this is a family taking full advantage of a young kid who doesn't know what they're signing and all that. I mean, obviously we're not in the room, but imagine being in that room and suddenly they're going, hey, you just need to sign right here. They just show you the end page where you have to sign, and that's it. They don't show you the title or anything of that sort. And you never know. At 18 years old, he may not even know what a conservatorship is. If they gave him the paperwork, maybe he didn't even realize it. Like, he didn't realize what it entailed. So it's really, really sad that this happened. And yes, I agree, being Maryland on YouTube, this is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And I hope that he gets, Zebedee, Ole Miss alumni, talented football player, y'all. Clearly, he did 8 seasons. He played ball for 8 seasons. Let's be real. NFL for 8 seasons. He's not a bad player. So this family knew exactly what they had in their home. Hence the reason why they took advantage of this young man. That's it. It's messed up. And of course, as more information comes out, we're gonna talk about it, because it's not good. And they made themselves look like the heroes in this movie. I've heard so many great things about this movie. And now it's all a lie. It's all a lie, y'all. They did not put in all the deceit. They didn't put in all the conning, all the coercion, the manipulation. They didn't put any of that stuff in there, if these allegations are true. But also, I will say this too, guys. This story is not old news. These allegations aren't old news. They have been talking about this. He has been going on other podcast interviews talking about this for almost a year now, y'all. Talking about how this movie does not depict his life at all, that the movie is completely false. He talks about all this stuff. But now he's finally filing the paperwork, so the right paperwork, so he can hopefully get the justice and the money that he rightfully deserves. I mean, shoot. They're riding off of his back when they already have enough monies. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. Anyway, guys, that is the show. I appreciate all y'all for being here. It really does mean a lot. I know it's very impromptu, but we were gonna do this as a pop-up video, but I was like, nah, let's talk about it with the fam, because people need to be well aware of what actually happened here. The fact that there's no possibility of catching any type of criminal charges is criminal, in my personal opinion. I feel like that's criminal. It's frustrating, y'all. Frustrating. Raven said longer than a year, Pascal. Oh, then okay. Because I heard about him just saying this thing isn't true about like 10 months ago, so it may be more than that. But I caught wind of this a long time ago. The documents and the case filings and all that is very new. Obviously, this is just from yesterday, but I had to talk about it with somebody who knows what the hell they're talking about, and that's Christopher Melcher. Please go follow him on X or Twitter, okay? At CA_divorce. All right. Please do me a favor before you head out, hit that like button down below. That would really, really mean a lot. Let's get it past 300 likes. Okay, we're almost there. A like don't cost a thing. It only helps the show grow. Okay. And of course, if you haven't done it yet as well, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And of course, do not forget to hit that follow button on my Facebook page. We talk about everything on this channel, and this is absolutely mind-blowing stuff. So please be sure to hit that follow button and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you know whenever I go live. If you're watching on YouTube, hit it to all so that you know whenever I go live or whenever I upload a pop-up video, because it's be random though. It'd be very random. Okay. Anyway, guys, I appreciate all y'all. It's been amazing. Appreciate you guys. Have a great afternoon, and I'll be talking to you guys very soon. Be good to yourselves. Be good to one another, and I'll see you guys in the next video. This is the Pascal Show. Bye.